Okay, let's move on to RuPaul's Drag Race, which I'm having heart palpitations over.
Oh, I can't believe they did that.
Well, I'll let you frame up what this episode was.
So basically, we were supposed to get to find out who the winner was. And then at the very end, they're like, oh, we're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to announce the winner at the reunion show next week. And we're going to open up to viewer input and votes and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, what? I bet you they already have in mind who they want to win. And they're just trying to, like, appease the audience to make them think that they had a say in it.
I think so too, and it was bittersweet for me because I was, on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
My hands were balled up and bleeding because my fingernails were cutting into my tendons, and they're like, okay, we'll see you next week. But also, I was thinking as I was watching, I thought, oh, Sharon Needles, the one I want to win, isn't doing well. I don't think she's going to win. So I'm hoping that the audience feedback does have a little bit of sway, and she does win.
I'm hoping that too, but
so our final three are still Fifi O'Hara, who is the glamour queen and is super, super catty and is mean. Then Sharon Needles, who is goth and gorgeous, and I cannot remember the third one's name.
Chad Michaels.
It's funny, I can never remember her name, but on the other hand, she is the only drag queen that's been on the show that I knew outside of the show.
Really?
Yeah.
The only one that's been on the show that I knew of outside of the show was Willem. But that's because Willem had been in TV shows and stuff.
That's true. Yeah, I think I had seen her, but I didn't really know her. As long as Fifi doesn't win.
Yes.
I'll be happy.
Fifi is so, two-faced.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that person's so catty. I don't like them. And then she turns around and is catty herself.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be the way they're editing it. I don't know. But I want Sharon to win. And if not Sharon, then Chad.
I feel bad that I feel like none of the other contestants had a chance with the fans. Because from episode 1, as soon as I watched it, of course, I logged on the internet to see what everyone was saying. Everyone was like, hand down, Sharon Needles, I love her. She's my favorite. She has to win.
Yeah.
And she's so perfect, but on the other hand, it's like no one had a chance against her. She's just so cool looking that the fandom just automatically got drawn to her.
Yeah. I mean, who was, how they keep advertising the fantasy drag team?
Yeah.
So who was your fantasy top 3?
Well, Sharon Needles, Raja, and...
Wait. For this season. Raja wasn't in this season.
Well, I thought we were talking all over. Okay, for this season, Sharon Needles.
Yeah.
Who was the girl that was in jail?
Was in jail? Oh, Latrice?
Latrice. I almost cried when she got kicked off.
I was shocked.
Yeah, me too.
I was shocked.
Yeah. And Michaels. What's her face? Michaels. I can't remember her name for some reason.
Chad Michaels. That would be my fantasy top 3 for this season as well.
So the girl who got kicked off, that I keep thinking they're going to talk about why she got kicked off on the reunion show.
A lot of people were guessing 2 things. Either she was doing drugs, or she snuck in a cell phone and was using it to contact the outside. Possibly contact the outside to get drugs. But people were saying that it's supposedly going to get revealed on the reunion show, but if it's something as serious as drugs, I don't think they're going to reveal that. If it's something as frivolous as using a cell phone, they could have easily have revealed that in the show or the Untucked.
That's true, but I also saw on the logo Twitter and their Tumblr feed, as soon as it aired, they started to try to set up this meme of, oh, what did she do? So I think they kind of used it as a marketing ploy.
I know it probably has to do with the way it was edited, but I know a lot of the other queens were like, oh, you're doing something that's going to make us look bad. It's going to make us look bad. And it's like, well, if Willem just used a cell phone, that's not going to make you look bad. But if Willem was doing drugs or slept with one of the crew members or something, that might reflect badly on the show. But if it was just using a cell phone, then no, it's got to be something more serious than that.
I would think. It was driving me crazy up until RuPaul said, we're not going to announce the winner now. And then that started driving me crazy. So this whole season has been a mess. Okay, so we talked about Outland last week.
Yes.
You had seen it. I hadn't. I finally saw the first episode, and it was good. I liked it. You have good taste.
Did you only watch the first episode?
I only watched the first episode. I have 3. I meant to watch more, but I only watched the first one. And
I wanted to talk about the whole season. I can't talk about the whole season now if you haven't seen it. It's only 6 episodes, Chrissy.
I'm sorry. I had other things to do. I have lots of fandoms.
Okay.
And I swear, I said this last week, so hand to God, I stand by this. Whoever wrote the script, I know was watching The Guild, the online show. Because it's like, oh, a bunch of nerds who like sci-fi stuff and video games, and there's one in a wheelchair. It's like, just like that.
I have no idea. Maybe. I know it was co-created by 2 different guys. One of them is Fab in the show.
Oh, really?
Yes. And the other one makes a cameo in the very last episode, but like as a background person. But they're both apparently like very big sci-fi fans and stuff. So maybe they watched it. I don't know. The show was based off of a short film that was made several years ago.
Was it Australian?
Yes. And it was written by the same people. The short film was written by the same people who did the show. Not the guy who plays Fab, but the other creator, recorded commentary for all 6 episodes and put it online, like to stream and play along with as you watch the episode.
Oh, that's cool.
So I watched those, so I know a lot of behind the scenes stuff. From what I remember, like the show, when it was originally announced, it was supposed to air sometime in 2011, but it didn't end up airing until 2012, but it was filmed in 2010. So, like, they were saying that some of the jokes they were making about stuff that was really relevant or ahead of the curve in 2010 is, like, behind now that it's actually aired.
Yeah.
So.
It's very much Australian. I thought that every once in a while when somebody made a joke, I thought that's very Australian humor. So it's quite different from our kind of geeky version, which... What is the name of our geek show? What's it called? Geek something? Nerd something? I obviously don't watch
Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, that.
Okay, yeah.
They're both kind of along the same lines as that it's a group of nerdy people.
But I used to watch Big Bang Theory. I haven't seen it in a couple seasons just because I missed a couple of episodes and I just gradually kept missing more and more and more and I got out of watching it. But I used to really like that show. But I think from the seasons that because I watched Big Bang Theory from I think like season 1 through 3 maybe. I feel like the big difference is a lot of the humor in Big Bang Theory feels like it's more so for the outsider to find amusement of, whereas in I feel like it's more for the insider to find amusement from, you know?
Yeah, I found that a lot too. I haven't watched a full episode of the Big Bang Theory, but that's kind of why I don't watch it, because it's very much like, oh, let's write a show about geeks. Now let's Google geek and see what comes up, and we'll just write that down. And there were, like, no girl geeks till way later on. There's no gay characters. But with Outland, they're all gay, which I kind of wish they weren't either. I'd like, a mix of different sexualities.
But I think, that would be nice. But I think if you look at it from the perspective that they are all gay, it's pretty groundbreaking that there's just, like, some random series where every character's gay and they're sci-fi nerds. Like, that hasn't been done.
It just seemed a little improbable to me that they all just, like, happened to be gay, because I was thinking, oh, is this, you have to be gay to get in the group?
There's, in the next episode, that you haven't seen, this is probably going to spoil some of it for you. I won't give everything away. But in the second episode, they all gather at Ray's apartment, and her ex-girlfriend comes by and happens to accidentally mention something about having a new group. And they all kind of freak out, and they're like, what new group? There's a new group? And she's like, no, there's no new group. I shouldn't have said that. And then Ray finally goes, what's it called? And she goes, the Lesbian Separatist Feminist Fantasy League.
See, that I could get into.
But she, like, yells it and says it really fast. If I tried to do that, my tongue would get tied. But yeah.
Ray, I like. I mean, them all being gay is pretty groundbreaking, but the fact that they had a character there that's in a wheelchair and nothing was said about it, it's just she was a character in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I loved. That was incredible.
Well, the second episode's all about her, so you should watch the second episode.
Awesome.
Okay, you want to move on to the next show?
Oh, yeah, speaking of crippled people, right?
Okay.
Glee.
Yes.
Now, you haven't watched last season, right?
No, I watched They're currently in, I think they're fourth season. I get confused, but they're currently in a season right now. They showed some episodes, then they went on a break, and then they came back sometime in April. And I watched the first episode from when they came back from their break, but then I've missed the subsequent ones because I have to work until 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, and it starts at 8 o'clock. So I either have to race home and do the start over thing, or I have to just watch it the next day.
Well,
and I haven't gotten around to it. So
we're pretty equal in that because I haven't seen the more recent episodes either, but because I run a disabled blog, I get tons and tons of messages and feeds about Glee.
I did see a tiny little bit of like some of your reactions to other people's reactions.
Yeah, I started doing that, and then I thought that's not fair for me to just react to
something you haven't seen.
Reactions to a show, so I started watching it, and then
oh really?
Okay, here's my reactions to it. And I haven't watched this season, and it's a spoiler alert for anybody who's into it and behind.
What season or episodes have you watched?
Whatever they have on Netflix. I just watched whatever they had on Netflix.
Well, what season is it? You don't even know what season?
I don't know, like the pregnancy thing's over with, and people went to New York, and
okay, so you're watching last season, I think.
Okay. So the big new thing is that we have the crippled dude who is annoying and portrays an offensive stereotype.
Okay.
But then we get the Quinn girl who...
Do you want me to explain to you a little bit about... Because you didn't see the episode where she...
No, I didn't. All of a sudden, I turned on Tumblr, and I see she's in a wheelchair, and I thought, okay, she's sitting in the dude's wheelchair, and then they show him sitting next to her, and I thought, oh, geez, what now?
Okay, that's the episode that I've actually seen. So do you want me...
How did she end up crippled?
Okay, so the episode before they went on break, she was on her way to an event. It was... two of the other characters, for God knows what reason, wanted to get married in high school. So she was kind of against it, but then at the last minute, she was like, okay, I'll go. So she's driving there, and she's running late, so she picks up her phone to text on my way, and she's not looking, and she gets sideswiped by a big truck. And then it's end scene. That's the end of the episode. And then after, like, I don't know, 3-week break, something like that, they come back and she's in a wheelchair, which I thought they were going to give her like severe cognitive damage and stuff like that, but they just put her in a wheelchair. So basically the way she explains it, like her spine was compressed in the accident, so that left her legs paralyzed only, I guess. And I remember her saying something about that her plumbing still works.
Oh my gosh.
And she said that she was starting to recover a bit of feeling in her legs, so the doctor told her that if she had lots of time and lots of physical therapy, there was a chance she could recover the ability to walk again. The other character in the wheelchair, Artie, I get the feeling like from the onset he sort of doubted that, and he basically like kept trying to gently hint to her that there's a good chance she's not going to get out of that wheelchair. And for the senior skip day, all the Glee Club like are planning to go to Six Flags, and then Artie kind of like pulls Quinn to the side and's like, yeah, you probably don't want to do that. Take it from me, it's not going to be as fun as you think. So he ends up taking her to like this, I guess it's like a skateboard park, but there's like all these handicapped people there, like amputees and people in wheelchairs and all this stuff. And then they go on a couple ramps, and then Quinn's like, oh yeah, that was really fun. It was a great time. Way better than Six Flags.
I'm sure.
I know, like, the one thing I saw on Tumblr that I remember seeing you respond to was somebody said, you know, how could they do this to Quinn? And my thing is, like, yeah, she may be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, but she still has her mental abilities. She can still move from the waist up, you know? I mean, yes, it's gonna change her life in some ways, but she can still go to Yale like she planned. It might not be in the way she planned.
It'll be rolling there instead of walking there.
Yeah, so now that you've got a little backstory, what do you think?
Well, let's start with Artie.
Okay.
Artie he got in an accident just like Quinn. He's paralyzed from the waist down, just like Quinn.
Yeah.
He makes sure from an early episode that he can still have sex, just like Quinn.
Yeah.
And all characters that get any type of major role in any type of media are disabled people like that. They're like, oh, well, I'm disabled from the waist down, so you won't really have to see me struggle or do anything you might find odd, and I don't have a genetic disease, so you won't see, you know, my fingers curl in any sort of way, and I won't have any distinctive features that shows my disability. And it was always an accident, you know, later on in life, so I'm gonna be kind of upset about it and always wish I could walk.
I think the only character that I've ever seen in a wheelchair on a TV show that wasn't just like, paralyzed from an accident was on a very early season of Degrassi Next Generation, and the girl, like the actress, was clearly had like a genetic disability. It's been so long since those seasons aired, but I only remember seeing her in maybe 5 episodes tops because she wasn't a main character. She was like a background character, but she did have a few speaking lines.
Well, that's good.
But, that's Canada for you, and it's Degrassi for you. Degrassi is, if anything, diversified.
Well, and later on they had Drake, who was in an accident, and...
No, he's not. He's not Drake. He will forever be Wheelchair Jimmy.
Sorry, I always forget his official name. So, yeah, it's just another one of those. So, I gave Artie kind of a pass. He was super annoying, but at least they had disabled character, even if it was the same old character. But with this one, it was Quinn, and I saw her in a wheelchair. I thought, oh god, no, and I guessed right away. Oh, her vagina's gonna work. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I bet she got in a car accident. And it's true. Why do we need 2 characters on the same show to give us one stereotype? One was enough.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought from the way that she was hit, I thought that they were going to give her like brain damage or something. Because she was in a low, little, tiny car that was low to the ground, and she was hit by a truck that was really tall, like semi-truck tall. So it would have, not just hit her lower body, it would have hit her head too. I thought they were going to give her brain damage.
Well, that would be, I think, too unattractive for ratings.
And plus, I think maybe a bit too deep for Glee.
That's certainly true, too. I saw a gift cluster on Tumblr recently.
Yeah.
And it's of her, and she's in the bathroom talking to other girls, and she said, I like them, and he went to kiss me, but right before he did, he pulled away, and I know it's because I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm never going to date again. And I thought, okay, well, maybe they are actually going to address some things that disabled people have to put up with.
Yeah.
Now, it's from a girl's point of view, and of course, they're going to write girls more sensitive, and then I thought, why are you thinking that she's going to be cured immediately? Yeah. So that's
definitely it. I mean, that scene definitely from an episode I haven't seen. So
I haven't seen either, but I saw the GIFs. I feel like I watched all the episodes because I see all the GIFs. But on a more loving note, the second to last episode of South Park had a very interesting couple of scenes that really fed the fandom, and I was excited about.
Oh, you're gonna spoil me, aren't you? This is another one of those shows I don't really get to watch very often because it comes on so late at night on Wednesdays, and I have to work until 8 o'clock and then come home and basically eat and go to sleep.
Well, it doesn't really give away the plot, and I think you're bound to run into this spoiler.
Okay.
So don't blame me personally. They did a spoof on one of those stupid shows, I Shouldn't Have Survived.
Okay.
Where they go ziplining. So they named the episode, I Shouldn't Have Gone Ziplining. And to do the reenactment scenes, they use actual live action actors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, and they use like 20-something actors, good-looking actors, in my opinion.
Okay.
And so now there's, GIFs and clips of Stan and Kyle, especially this one scene where they're upset and they're like hugging each other. And so it's, given a rejuvenating splash of fandom to the series. And, the girls are like, oh, I love new people we can draw fan art of. So I was happy.
I'll have to get caught up on that because I know South Park on their like official website they put up practically every episode they've ever done on their website, so I'll have to look and see if it's on there.
You'll enjoy it. I recommend the episode.
Did you have any TV shows left to talk about?
Nope, I've reached the end of my TV list.
So I have something that I don't really watch this show, but I read some news, so I want to know. You watch it, I know. So did you hear this story about how like there were allegations that The Bachelor and The Bachelorette don't let black people on the show?
I read that news too.
So do you think they were like intentionally turning people away, or were there just not any people of color auditioning, or what's your take? Because I don't watch the show. I don't know anything really about it.
There is no possible way no black people were auditioning.
Okay.
That's impossible. The show has gone on for so long. A minority would have wandered in at one point, delivering food or something.
Like, is it just black people, or have there been like Asians and Hispanics, or is it is it like all people of color?
You have your kind of like racially ambiguous people. It's usually women, of course,
Yeah.
those ones who look, oh, maybe she's Latina or maybe she's a little Asian.
Okay.
And you've had a couple black people, but they have not lasted very long, and I don't think that was a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, the show, people are like, oh, you watched The Bachelor, you like The Bachelor, and they always assume that, I must be saying that I'm a huge fan of it and really get into romances like some people do. There's nothing romantic about The Bachelor at all. I love the show. I watched the show like some people watch The Kardashians, I'm sure. It's a train wreck. It's crazy. The show it's racist. It obviously is. And if they put a black bachelor in now, it's obviously going to be pressure. But they should still do it.
Yeah. It does seem odd that, like, how many seasons have they had, do you know?
Oh my god, so many.
You don't even know?
No, I don't, I think my ovaries hadn't dropped so much.
Oh, okay, so that long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does seem really odd that they wouldn't have had, like, not as one of the contestants, but as, like, the main person. It does seem kind of odd that they wouldn't have had a person of color. Like, it's only ever white people, right?
Yeah, very white people. What's kind of funny, though, is that it's taken this long for somebody to call them out on it, but they got a bunch of flack for not having any, and I don't know if this word is politically correct anymore, but midgets on the show.
Little people, I think, is the term that TLC uses.
Okay, well, I've been watching that new Ricky Gervais show about the actor who's the little person, and he says midget a lot, so I keep thinking, oh, are you supposed to say midget now?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who are probably fine with that, but I don't know, like, TLC has, I don't know if they still show them, but they used to have, like, 5 or 6 shows about...
Oh, yeah, tons of shows.
They always were like, we prefer the term little people, so, I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm fine with being called cripple and gimp and handicap, so I don't really have a lot of empathy for people who want to be called specific things, because I figure if I don't give a shit about my disability, you shouldn't either. So, but I'll try to be nice and say little people. So yes, they had no little people on the show, and that became a backlash, and I thought, really? There's no little people on any show. And at the time, this was before all those reality shows, so there really weren't. Every time you saw anyone who was a little person was like at Christmas, and they were dressed as elves.
Yeah.
So they started their own The Littlest Bachelor, which was hugely offensive.
Oh gosh. Like, this would probably make the matter worse because it would somewhat be segregating things instead of bringing them together. But if the main Bachelor show doesn't want to have people of color or little people or people of size or disabled people or whatever on it, they could have, like, the Bachelor Midget Edition, the Bachelor Full of Color Edition. But that would make it way worse, right? Because then you're just, like, segregating things.
But they did on prime time I think it was Fox had The Littlest Bachelor, where it was The Bachelor for little people. It was all midgets all the time.
Well, what if you're a little person and you're attracted to average-sized people? Could you not be on the show?
I suppose not. But that's the kind of stereotype when it's an uncomfortable minority that you're dealing with, like someone who has disproportionate sizes or who has a disability. Society kind of doesn't want to see them as interbreeding with the normal.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are people out there who are little people who are married or dating average-sized people.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely, and I've seen
that doesn't really get
before.
Depicted that much.
They did a, the MTV show True Life?
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago, back before they ran out of things to talk about, so now they're talking about True Life, I lost my cell phone.
Oh yeah, it's gotten really stupid.
Yeah, they did I'm a Little Person, and they showed them, trying to date and go to college, and there was one girl, particularly young girl, who was starting college and starting new life, and she was dating an average-sized guy, and, her friends weren't kind of sure about him, and neither was her family, and he just came off as kind of creepy. And then when the show aired, the feedback to it was, that guy's kind of creepy, and the word fetish kept getting dropped every now and then when they did a follow-up show, she kind kind of said, looking back on it, I kind of see that he was kind of creepy. And she tried to avoid saying, he had a fetish, but they kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
Which I think he was definitely one of those guys who had a fetish for little people. But in saying that, there's nothing wrong having a fetish with anyone who has a disability or anything. But to be a creepy guy is a problem. To have a fetish is not. He was a creepy guy.
I think to have a fetish that involves somebody with a disability or whatever, it's fine as long as the other party that has the disability knows you have that fetish.
Yeah.
And that they understand that's part of the reason you're with them. Because otherwise, that's not very fair. It's a bit misleading, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It should be safe to be able to tell someone that you're interested in, oh, I'm into girls who have long hair and you have long hair, so I find that attractive. Or, oh, I have this foot fetish, so I want to be able to rub your feet. Or to say, I have a disability, fetish. Can we do it in your chair? That should be fine. Just be upfront.
Okay, so moving on to different TV show, Fringe. I don't know if you know that show or you watch that show. I don't know.
I'm not huge into, the remakes or...
It's not a remake.
Wasn't it based off a British show, though?
Not that I know of.
Well, I'm going to find out, and if I'm right, you owe me like $1 million.
So, last week, they showed this episode that's supposed to be, for whatever random reason, the episode was set into the future. I think it was 2036. And, they developed this plot line, this storyline, and then the episode ends, and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to continue it the next week because there's all these open-ended plot points that they haven't answered yet. It's not wrapped up. If it's going to be a standalone episode, they would have wrapped it up. But clearly, from the previews for this week, it's not continuing. So I don't get what the point was. Unless they are going to somehow bring this future plotline back up later on in the series, it was completely pointless.
Well, maybe they're hoping the show goes so long that eventually it's going to be the year 2030 or whatever, and they can just pick it up from where they left off. No,
because that show, the past, pretty much every season that show's been on, it's sort of been, nobody's really sure if it's going to get renewed or not until, the last possible second.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a chance it might not even get renewed. So,
maybe they're going to try to do a spin-off.
Maybe, I don't know, but if they do not at some point tie the current timeline into this future timeline, I'm gonna... what was the point if they don't do it?
If they mess this up, we will never have been born.
That's a possibility. Although no, because that happens when you travel back in time, not forward, so...
Well, you totally ruined my joke then. Now it doesn't make any sense.
That's what I do, ruining jokes since 1986.
You popped out of your mom and yelled, cock block. You're ruining everybody's time.
So another show I want to talk about is Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Do you watch that at all?
I watched the first 15 minutes of the first episode, and I said, to hell with this show.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
But isn't that the show where the first episode, these dudes are wandering around in the woods and they find these wolf puppies?
Yes.
I finished that scene and stopped watching it.
I have things that I like and dislike about Game of Thrones.
Is it true that in the background there's always naked chicks?
Not always, but often. Which is one of my complaints that I'll get to. My thing, I don't typically tend to like fantasy novels, but fantasy TV shows or fantasy movies, I'm fine with. I get zoned into it and I'm sucked in. So, since the previous podcast, 2 episodes have aired, episode 3 and episode 4. So, I'm just going to address them by episode.
Okay.
So, episode 3, I really liked. There was, interactions with characters that I like. Arya and Gendry and Tyrion, laying a smackdown on Cersei, and just lots of stuff that was good. I liked that episode. And finally, we join Renly and find out that he has married Loras's sister to basically get the backing of Loras's father and the troops and the money. And at one point, Renly says something like that he wants to be left alone, he's going to go pray. And then a little later on, you see him, in his tent with Loras, having prayer session on the bed. But my gripe about that though is compared to the intimate scenes between men and women or even women and women on that show, it was tame. I mean, you couldn't even call it a sex scene. It was like a makeout session, if that. As much as I like Game of Thrones, I'm getting very annoyed with the often needlessly gratuitous sex scenes. Episode 3 wasn't that bad, but a lot of times I feel like they're just showing nudity for the sake of showing nudity, and it's almost always female nudity, so not only is it pointless, it feels really imbalanced. And coming back to the Renly and Loras scene, their pants stayed on, there was a couple kisses, and that was about it. And right after, Loras leaves in a huff because he's saying that, Renly's, people are starting to snigger at him behind his back because his wife is still a virgin 2 weeks after her wedding day.
How do they know? Does she walk around with her hymen out?
I don't know. So right after Loras leaves, his sister comes in, and she comes in and gets her boobs out. What? Nearly every scene that is in any way intimate that involves a woman, the woman's at bare minimum showing her boobs. At most, she's completely full frontal. And from my recollection, there's been maybe 1, possibly 2 intimate scenes where a guy showed more than just his chest or his butt. It's like a double standard slap in the face, you know?
It's a double slap in the face with 2 tits.
Yes. I don't necessarily need them to just start showing as much male nudity as they show a female nudity, because I mean
that would be porn.
Yes, it may balance things out, but my biggest gripe is that a lot of times the nudity is completely unnecessary. It's just there because it's HBO, probably, you know?
Yeah, that's what I heard about it. It was the moment I started thinking, well, everybody likes it, maybe I'll give it another shot, because again, all I really saw was a bunch of dudes pick up puppies, and I thought, oh, I'm bored. But yeah, then suddenly I heard everybody talk about, there's all this needless nudity, and it's always of women, and it's just really sexist. And I thought, I can't watch that. I will spend all my time on my stupid blog talking about feminism, and I already do that.
Okay, so episode 4, I don't really have as much to say about. I just wanted, Joffrey, who is the former...
Wait, the guy from Buffy?
No.
That would be a great... That'd be amazing if Buffy the Vampire Slayer just showed up in the middle of it. Let me know. I'll watch it then.
He's just the most despicable, vile, sadistic, loathsome, awful human being. And he's a teenager.
Well, that explains it.
You just see his face and you want to punch him. And the last episode, one of the characters said, they summed it up perfectly about Joffrey. There's no cure for being a cunt. That is Joffrey in a nutshell. Second, biggest, WTF of episode 4 was right at the very end. This, black smoke shadow demon spawn thing crawled out of the vagina of the crazy fire priestess lady.
Okay.
The fire priestess lady, takes off her robe and she's, stark naked, lays down, and gets in, a birthing position because she's suddenly now pregnant when she wasn't pregnant the week before.
Okay.
And she starts, looks like she's going into labor, and the next thing you know, you see these, black cloud hands crawling out of her hoo-ha. It's this black shadow smoke thing crawls out of her, and it's the most speechless. What? I can't even make a coherent thought about it. It's
Well, I know for one thing, whatever she gave birth to is not going to be the next Bachelor.
No, still not.
Well, that reminds me of another show that just came out. I meant to mention it before. It's called Girls.
Uh-huh.
It's on HBO, and it's based off this independent film called Tiny Furniture.
Okay.
Lena Dunham made it, and she's this actress, director, artist. She's amazing. She stars in both Tiny Furniture and Girls. And I kept reading on the feminist blogs before it came out. This is supposed to be a depiction of women written by women, and it's not going to be offensive, and it's going to be a true, depiction of young girls and what they go through. So I was really looking forward to it. And I feel that they're actually doing it and doing a good job of it. But it's also, a New York hipster kind of girl.
Yeah.
And so the first episode wasn't great. And then the second episode, which those are the only two that aired so far, one of the girls is pregnant and she wants to go to abortion. So they all go to an abortion clinic and they're talking about, their periods and sex. And this one girl is deathly scared of getting AIDS. And it was so funny. And I'm like laughing throughout this whole string of scenes where they're at the abortion clinic. And I thought, oh, I can't believe that they're making abortion jokes that are so much like the ones I make with my friends. It's finally like... there are girls on TV that act like I do. So I feel really good about the show. I hope it gets great ratings. If anybody hasn't seen it, check it out, especially if you're a girl who makes abortion jokes or has, like, the main girl, Lena Dunham, all your panties have weird stains on them because you can't count your periods right.
Okay, I might have to watch that show. I don't know.
You definitely do.
Okay, the final TV show that I want to talk about is actually an old TV show. It's been off air for a while.
Dark Shadows.
No. The show that I want to talk about that I have been watching that is old and off air now is called Farscape.
Ah, yes.
According to Wikipedia, it originally aired from 1999 to, I think it was 2003, I think is what it said. And during a majority of its run on air, I did not get the Sci-Fi Channel, and that's the channel that it came on. So I am more than tardy to this party. And I had heard about it, and I knew a little bit about what it was, but I just never bothered to, try to download it, because at the time that I originally found out about it, I wasn't really into downloading TV shows. I didn't really know where to go to even try to find it. But now somebody's uploaded every episode on YouTube, so I've been watching it on YouTube. So Farscape was actually filmed in Australia, and pretty much every actor in it is Australian, or possibly New Zealand as well. I don't remember. But except the character John Crichton. He's the only American on there, even though there are plenty of characters trying to put on an American accent and occasionally slipping into Australian. But I really am enjoying the show. I'm about halfway through season 1, and even though it aired in the late 90s, early 2000s, something about it just makes me feel like something that would have been on air in the early to mid 90s. I think it may be the animatronic puppets. It just reminds me of a show I would have watched when I was younger, in the early to mid 90s. But I'm really enjoying it. My one tiny little insignificant nitpick, two. The character, there's a character called Dargo, who is this, tall, big, burly, rough alien. And he's got these tiny little skinny-fingered human hands. Could they not put some prosthetics on his fingers to make them fit the size of his body? It looks, every time I see his hands, I'm like, that's not his hands, that's a child's hands. What is that?
Well, he's an alien. You can't judge how he evolved.
It just doesn't seem like it would fit with the rest of his body build.
That's discriminatory.
He looks like he should have thicker fingers to me. Two.
And you know what else isn't right with that show?
What?
No midget.
No. Because there is Rigel. He's very tiny, but he's an alien. So I don't know if it counts.
I don't know if I should trust you because you just said the guy had baby hands. And I'm sure he doesn't have real baby hands. Maybe he just looks small next to the other guy. Compare him against that guy's hands.
Rigel looks tiny compared to the human, and the human is of average size.
Okay. I take back my midget comment.
Okay.
But they need a black eye. There was a black eye that wasn't there.
No.
Well, then there you go.
But there's a blue lady.
Doesn't count.
But that's my second tiny little nitpicky complaint. The blue character, her name is Zan. They pronounce it two different ways. So his accent's coming in again.
Yeah.
The base color of her skin is blue, and then she has these white speckly markings. And from episode to episode, it's sometimes the white markings are a lot darker and more noticeable than other times. And
well, maybe she has alopecia.
Alopecia would get rid of her hair, not her skin color.
Oh, what's the one where you turn white?
Vitiligo?
Yeah, maybe she has that.
I know it's completely insignificant nitpicking. It doesn't affect the plot line, but these are just things I notice. So, yeah.
Well, white spots and baby hands. I got it.
Other than that, I'm very much enjoying the show. Like I said, it reminds me of something that I would have watched in like the early to mid 90s, even though it wasn't made in the early to mid 90s. But it just makes me feel nostalgic, even though I have no reason to feel nostalgic about it. So yeah, I think that's it for the TV shows then.